years ago, trying to find my way in different situations that I was in. I really didn't know what that purpose was. Uh, as a lot of people know, and I'll share openly, I wear my recovery on my sleeve. I'm also a believer in Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, which the redemption story continues to unfold. He's the only one that I've found that can see around corners and fulfills my purpose while I'm here on earth. Quick backstory. So yes, I am a person in long-term recovery. I haven't had a mood or a mind-altering substance in my body, and it'll be 10 years on March 28th of 25.
Congratulations. That
Yeah,
is something to cheer for.
thank you. That's not me. That's him. But how did that come about, right? So, everybody has their own struggle, and I'll be the first one to say that the struggle's real.
Yes.
The struggle is real. My recovery is one day at a time, and sometimes it comes down to an hour at a time.
Yes.
Sometimes I can set the clock for seconds and pause and pray and move forward. But there's a process through that.
Yes.
And does that just happen? No, it's work,
Yes.
right? So first and foremost, I would say that for me, all of the work and ambition and the all in all that I had put into getting my alcohol, getting my drugs, getting what Jody wanted in those selfish times of my life. I did whatever I had to do. It didn't matter if it was 20 below zero, if it was a foot and a half of snow, who I had to steal from, rob from, borrow from Peter to pay Paul, the whole rigmarole.
Yes.
And again, at that time, right, the struggle is real. And so I grew up here in Franklin County. My parents were local used car dealers for 44 years. Dad's been retired for a few years now and enjoying life. And through the years growing up, for me there wasn't really a lot of consequences
Yes.
in growing up because of the family business, being associated with law enforcement. Back in my early days of use, I'd get a ride home or followed home, or so I didn't see any severe consequences. And I think sometimes that's where individuals that I talk to now, they slide through they
Yes.
slide through the cracks and haven't found their purpose. So at the age of 13, I mean, that's when my addiction really started. I was a daily drinker. The rest of the substances came in, later in life. But I had those feelings of, where do I fit in? My first love was a soccer ball. I ate, slept, breathed, walked. I mean, that thing never left me, and that was, that's what I lived for. That's what I thrived for. That's what I went to school for. Academically, I'm not on the high honor roll, but for to be able to perform as an athlete, that was my drive. And drugs and alcohol took that away from me.
Yeah.
And I wasn't able to understand the consequence of that. I guess I can say that was one of my early consequences, but I didn't comprehend it.
Right.
It was more out of resentments built up in regards to, how could you do this to me? You know that this is what I live for, and now it's gone. Fast forward, that journey of drinking and alcoholism just continued for a long time. I left Bellows Free Academy in St. Albans, transferred to the School of Hard Knocks, right? I hit the
Yes.
streets, working in local bar establishments, throughout the city. and indulging in things that, I thought that I had arrived, being 17, 18 years old, and money's coming my way, and mind-altering substances coming my way, and, women coming my way. And so, what a feeling. But it's, for some of us, and me included, it took a long time to figure out that there was more to life than that.
Well, that age, in my experience, I would say is a stupid stuff age where you are invincible and you know everything.
Yeah. So time went on, and looking at changes, if I do this, then life is going to be okay, right? So that's, looking at bringing in hostages. And when I say hostages, females, because it really came down to, in my addiction and alcoholism, I couldn't have a relationship. I didn't even know what a relationship was. There was, things attached to it, but to really grow up and look at, what that looked like, and not, be codependent. It took that struggle, also is real. And, I work with a lot of people in community that suffer with the codependency.
Yes.
So what am I getting at? Well, let's fast forward, so that there's a little bit of
History.
With all of the consequences that didn't come when they started to roll out, when there was the red flags of, I really need to help, I really need to do this. That came probably around 2000 and 2009. I didn't want to live anymore. Was trying to find ways to end my life, whether if it was picking out that tree as I was driving down the road, or other ways of suicide, because life just wasn't, it wasn't working anymore. I was working for my dad, running a tow truck. I could drink and sell cars, right? But I couldn't run tow truck and drink.
Yeah.
So that's really where the mind-altering substances started to come in, the opiates, that we obviously have a huge pandemic, and that continues. And so by utilizing those, then I had, I had arrived. I can function as long as I got what I need when that phone rings, and whether if it's 1 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm good. One particular morning, my phone rang at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I literally, I had what I needed, my stash on the side of the bed, but when I hit the interstate to head to Georgia for a rollover, I nodded off. And the rumble strip woke me up. And I went and did the call. Everything was good. And I thought about it after, and I'm like, something's got to change. A week later, I was up in Richford, and there was a rollover. I had a pair of shorts and sandals on, done this routine 1,000 times. Very high at the moment. So high that the trooper that was watching me, after I recovered the vehicle and got it on the bed and gave him a wave to say, have a good day and see you next time, one of my sandals was down where the recovery was, which I didn't know that sandal had come off 5 seconds into the recovery. And he just shook his head, and I put my head down and went and put my sandal on and jumped in the truck and waved. And that next morning, I was making phone calls. I was in the yellow book. I needed recovery. I needed to change my life around. And so I was willing to go, wherever I needed to go and do whatever I needed to do, right? Implement those things that I was talking about before, in regards to, I did whatever I needed to do to get what I wanted. And now it's time to reverse that role. And it's work. And so I put the work in. I went to Act 1, spent 5 days there detoxing. That was not pleasant. by the grace of God, I'm happy that I will never have to detox again, and transferred from there to Maple Leaf Farm, which is something that I wish that was still up and running, in the times that we're in. But it's work. In the 2 years, it was almost 2.5 years. I was sober. Life was good.
Yes.
Again, the struggle is real. I'm good financially, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Everything is going good, but those things that come up are, if I do this, then I'm going to be okay. But if I'm doing all of this work and I'm implementing it into my everyday affairs, then how do I know that it's working? And so that was the thought process that I started to develop. If I'm spending all of this time in learning, going to 12-step meetings and AA and NA, and how do I know that it's working? And what I can say is, whatever was working, if it's working, then keep doing it.
Yes.
Because once you stop doing it, that's where
Yes.
my problems came in. So for me, it was that codependency had popped up, which again is real. I was living with my folks. I'm 33, 34 years old, and just want that. I want that companionship.
Yeah.
To the point where I would do my laundry, I would fold my clothes, and I would put them on the bed, just so that somebing was, somebody was in bed
Yes.
with me. And so that's another sickness, right, that comes up where we can, trade and one for the other.
Yes.
Whether if it's gambling, if it's a shopaholic, whatever the case may be. There's always
Foodaholic.
food, yes, and I love to eat. And so those are the types of things that come up for me, or did come up, and still continue to this day.
Yes.
Come up. That particular situation turned into my addiction, where every female that I came in contact with, if there was a spark there, then she was the one, because I've been praying, and God put me into this conversation, and but I was forcing it. It wasn't his will.
Yeah.
And finally I had realized that I had to do an inventory, and what was it that I was looking for, and what was it that I had to offer. What am I bringing into the table, right? So
Yeah.
circling back around to relationships through the years, but I'm no good for anybody else if I'm not taking care of
Of
Jody,
yourself, yes.
right? So today, whatever I put in front of my recovery, I lose.
Yeah.
And that's something that I say on a regular basis, is that, and that doesn't matter if that's my parents, my kids, my wife, all of those things, my work, my recovery has to come first.
Top priority.
And so when I wasn't doing those things, when I wasn't going to meetings, when I wasn't, hanging out with the network that I developed, when I wasn't calling my sponsor, when I wasn't doing that was working, I slowly drifted, away. But I was chasing that companionship,
Yeah.
wanted that, like I wanted that next line.
Yeah.
And, it really overcame. And so what happens when being so fixated on something, that I don't see red flags, right? I don't see
Yes.
all of the things that my family sees, that my friends see, that my coworkers see. And I'm just focused on, this is it, and this is going to change. I developed into a relationship that I had no reason being in.
Yeah.
That relationship developed a geographical change, right? That's what a lot of people like myself feel, that that's what's going to fix things,
Yeah.
right? So if I get the job, and I get the house, and I get the car, and I get the the girlfriend, or the wife, or the significant other, and I move,
Yeah.
you know, somewheres where the sun is shining, wherever the case may be, like things are going to be different. Well, guess what? Wherever Jody goes, there he is. There I am.
Yeah.
You know, so time goes on. So some key things that took place, having that 2.5 years of sobriety came up later later in life. And one of those key components that I learned, the seeds that were planted, that I learned was that if I ever have to go to be incarcerated, that I need a bigger purpose
Yes.
while I'm there to be able to do my time.
Yes.
And I didn't think about it at the time. You go through the steps, and I made amends and brought different things up, and that's when that had come up for me. And he said, if you ever, you know, if you're making amends, and trust me, I did some things that I didn't want to talk to anybody about, and some things that I was going to bring to my grave, but by the grace of God, those things come up. You know, that's one thing that I do stand by today, is that I am a sinner and I was forgiven.
Yes.
I was forgiven by the grace of God, and He shows me every single day that He has me in His right hand, and that I'm gonna be okay, that I'm gonna prevail, and life will go on. So when I when I was in New York in that relationship, I ended up getting incarcerated
Okay.
a few different times, and the last time that I was arrested, I surrendered. I put my hands out. I was ready. I was a menace to society, to myself, all of those around me, and destruction. I needed some time to reset.
Yes.
I didn't know what that was going to look like, though, Winnie. I'm here to tell you right now.
Yeah.
So fast forward, I'm in New York. I'm in Malone, and about. I figured I had probably at least a month, to figure out like how long I was going to be there. I knew I was going to be sitting for a little while. I didn't quite know, but meanwhile, I'm waiting to talk to somebody. I gotta get some stuff off my chest. I gotta figure some stuff out. So, this God that I speak of, He has an amazing sense of humor. So, He finally gives me this opportunity to talk to this counselor. And so I meet the counselor. There's a pane of glass that's in between the two of us. And I'm sitting there and having a great conversation and telling them all of these, you know, amazing things, and how I can, you know, sell a blind man glasses, and so on and so forth, and my whole story. And when I got all done, he looked at me and he said, Jody, what are you afraid of?
Oh.
And I'm here to tell you right now, that hit me like a ton of bricks.
That's okay. That's okay. I got you.
Yeah, that hit me like a ton of bricks, because I knew exactly what he was talking about from, you know, previous conversations, and on how to recover, and, you know, things that come up for me even today is that self-centered fear.
Yeah.
This has got to go, that's got to go, and these fears come up, but they're not, for everything appears real. It's really not the case. And in the midst of when you're trying to figure all of that stuff out, right? And now you're tied into a system, and there's a revolving door. I'm the first one to tell you right now, get out of that revolving door.
Yes.
And there's a way to get out of that revolving door. But they make it so easy, right? So if somebody's facing a long period of time, and they give them a plea deal to say, you know what, we'll just give you 5 years of probation, and you stay out of trouble, and we'll carry on.
It's not as easy.
there's the percentage of not getting in trouble in those 5 years are very, very
Very low.
slim.
Yeah, very low, yes.
So they got you. And that's been my experience myself, recognizing it obviously, and then working with other people and trying to get them to recognize like there's an easier, softer way. When he asked me what I was afraid of, and I started to break down, at that time I was in a hall with 14 other guys, sharing a bunk. But I'm here to tell you right now, the man that left that room didn't come back the same way. And then when I was headed back down the hall, God spoke to me and he said, Jody, you have two options. Option one, you stay in this revolving door and you get credit for multiple felony educations. Whatever that's going to look like. And so what is a felony education? Well, I went in for this and I'm going to come out, trying to figure out how to rob a bank or how to, I mean, it goes on and on and on and on. And he made that very clear. If you stay inside this revolving door, you're going to get educated. And you're going to stay within these walls. And he said, two, take what's been given to you from me. And, in your 12-step world, from here on out, every person or man that comes through the door into your presence, it's your responsibility to take them under your wing. So I want you to use your big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. I want you to use your Bible, and that's going to make your time worthwhile.
Yes.
That's going to make your time go by a lot faster because you have a purpose. And your purpose isn't sitting there getting these other educations, and your purpose isn't, and don't get me wrong. There were times where, the actor came in. There were times where I felt that I had to be that chameleon to fit in, right? That's again, the struggle is real. I've got the armor on, I'm a tough guy. And when I walked back into that room and those guys saw me bawling like a baby, that was what they needed.
Oh, they needed to see you.
They needed to see me in that form, because the guy that walked out wasn't that. I had a big old beard down to here, and don't sit with me, leave me alone. You got space, and it's. And so today times changed, and so that's what I did for the time that I sat. Right, but then you have the thought process.
Yes.
I've been sitting here for a little while. Maybe something changed. Like, maybe I can go back and just do things a little bit differently. No. And I learned very quickly that was true. So, for me, you take the drugs and the alcohol and all the other things out of the equation.
Yeah.
Again, I'm left with Jody.
Yeah.
And
The most important
I have
person.
I have a thinking problem.
Right. Oh, you have a thinking problem. Okay.
That's my problem, right? So you take the drugs and the alcohol, which used to intensify my thinking, and so now the drugs and the alcohol are gone, and I'm still left with the thinking.
Yeah.
And how am I going to respond to certain, situations that are going to come up? And God really showed me very quickly of that I had a bigger purpose
Yes.
in life than to chase, the idols. And I think that that's a good word to use, because an idol of so many things that we can think that are going to, if we just stick to this, or
I'm going to make you happy.
I'm going to be happy. And there is absolutely nothing, nothing in this world that has made me more happier than the relationship that I have with Jesus Christ.
Yep.
Redeemed me when I had nobody. Stood by my side, walked before me, and to be able to, sit here and have this conversation with you today, and public,
Yeah. Yeah.
I it doesn't bother me,
Right.
and so that's something that I had to do to overcome that. Jody's not God. Jody's not Superman, and you've got some decisions to make.
Yeah.
And so by making those decisions and getting out of, that setting, now it's reality.
Yes.
How are you going to respond? And what is your follow through going to be able to do this? And it's hard, right? Because there's no bridging the gap. In some states, some circumstances, there is, where you can have things kind of laid out, and have an idea of where you're going upon release, right? But that's not always the case. And the hardest part is that we burned all of those bridges. So the sorries and all of that, and this isn't going to happen again, and so on and so forth, has been heard so many times. And now it's time to go to work.
Yeah.
It's action.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
You gotta put the action in, and in that action you're able to do the work and have it be seen and not heard.
Right.
And to follow up, and that's been my experience for the last, coming up on 10 years.
Yes.
And the family didn't just come running back to me. In that relationship that I spoke little of, a child was born.
Yeah.
My son is 13 years old now. By the grace of God, my parents took him in.
Yeah.
I get to see him whenever I want. We spend time together. That was, a bigger picture bigger purpose of what God had.
Yes.
And it's worked out because they did for him what I couldn't at that
Yes.
time. And to be able to have my dad tell me that my own son wasn't going to call me dad until I changed my ways.
It was a wake-up call.
Right? That's a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah.
Like, how do I want to be, what's my legacy? How do I want to be perceived? What am I looking at? And how am I going to change my life and change the perception of those that are looking at me?
Yes.
I mean, the destruction that I caused in Franklin County I'll be 46 tomorrow.
Oh, happy birthday.
I caused a lot of destruction in our community, and today it's just the opposite. Right?
Exactly. And exactly my point is that it doesn't matter what you've done before, that is history. What are you doing now?
Exactly.
And you are a very respectable person in this society. And, I look for people who have a story, who could tell me, I had a struggle and I overcome this struggle.
Yeah.
And today, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah. And today, that's really what it's all about. is doing the next best right thing.
Yes.
And some days, you know, it's a struggle.
Yes.
But I'll tell you this, and this is how I know that I've got God in my life. When I was released, I came back to St. Albans and tried to start over, right? And how do I clean up my side of the street and be able to hold my head up high and look people in the eye? Those are all things that come into play to be that better person.
Yes.
And for those that are listening or may hear this, like there's more to life.
Yes.
And the pain is the touchstone, right?
Yes. Yes.
Of to be able to get through that pain and know that if I get through this, then I'm going to be okay.
Yes.
And there's a reward for doing the next right thing.
Yes.
So what I found was I went to work for a restorative justice center.
Okay.
And I started out with helping people getting their licenses back. And I did some work at the transition house.
Okay.
But I wanted the pretrial services job. And because of my background,
Right.
my criminal background, I was told that I couldn't have it. And so I just continued to do what I do.
Yeah.
And I built a relationship with my coworkers and my boss at the time. And she was able to, speak on my behalf to the Attorney General in regards to this position, and they gave me the position. And I ran that position I miss it. I really do miss it. And there's that shift, right? So you go from being behind the wall
Yeah.
and looking the other way when the cops come, and you don't want to talk to the public defenders or the state's attorneys or the
Right,
judges.
right.
And here I am, this redemption story, this
Yes.
transformation that has taken place by the grace of God to be able to forget the past. Like my sins were forgiven, I was cleaned, washed white, and now I'm in the courtroom.
Yeah.
And on Monday mornings, I would go back into facility
Where
on
is
Laura
facility?
Newton. On Laura Newton, I go to the
okay.
jail,
Yeah.
and I would do pretrial services. So I would do a mental health and drug and alcohol assessment pre-arraignment. So when they went for their arraignment at 1 o'clock on Monday afternoon, that I would be able to talk to the public defender or the judge or the state's attorney and say, hey, I really think that this person's got a shot. Let's try to get them some treatment,
Yeah.
so on and so forth, and make those recommendations. So I did that for I don't think it was almost 5 years.
That's good.
It was a lot of fun, and the good times are with the ones that you don't think that you connected with, and they come back to you later in life. And I remember what you said.
Yeah.
And I think-
Words is very good and bad. Your words could actually hurt someone.
Oh yeah.
Or they could actually make someone change. My grandma always used to say, yesterday was history. Don't tell me that you failed yesterday. You're gonna be good today.
Yes.
And I live by that.
Yes.
Yesterday's history. Today's a clean slate for me to
Yeah.
make that change. But I am very, very impressed that one, you're not afraid to tell your truth. I am hopeful that this interaction, our conversation today, can help someone that is struggling. You do not have to be perfect. You do not have to not have a background. Each one of us have a history. Some histories you do not talk about. And things that were done during the stupid age stuff, some of those very people are wearing robes, or doctors, and they did go through the same thing, but different people have different paths. And today, this is what a redemption story is all about. Right here in St. Albans, Vermont, and we could have this conversation that yes, Jody was. And we always must use the was. And for all the powers they may be, after he has already paid his debt to society and he's back out, there's no reason to continue to use the person's past to prevent them to moving forward. They've proven themselves.
I would
And so
like
those
to
are
throw
some of the
something,
changes.
yeah, throw something in there too that I stand by is that all of those things that I went through in the beginning, I didn't understand the struggle and why I was going through it at that time. But now all of that stuff is part of my toolbox, right? I went through that, so I'm going to come in contact with people that are headed down that path that I can prevent,
Yes.
or that I can relate to,
Yes.
and so it adds more to my character to be able to help as many people as I can. And even in that job with the Restorative Justice Center, when COVID came, we weren't able to go in the courtroom. We weren't able to go back into facility. So my caseload had just dropped.
Yeah.
So I had a decision, like, how am I going, I got to change jobs.
Yeah.
And so I prayed on it and I prayed on it. God took me out of that suit and dropped me in a hole. And I went to work for Dirt Tech doing excavation work and water lines. And so this one particular day, because I'm questioning like why this huge transition.
Yeah.
So I'm in a hole, putting in a water line, and this guy keeps on looking at me, and he's trying to figure out where he knows me from.
Okay.
I met him in facility and did an interview, and he said, "Thank you for saving my life."
Yeah.
So those types of things just started to,
Give you
happen.
purpose.
Give my purpose, and right. So you're in the construction field, and that's how we survived, because I've been in that role when I wasn't sober, and it's tough.
Yes.
It's tough. And so to be able to be there for people as they're struggling, and then be able to recognize it when the supervisors and other people can't understand it or don't give somebody the opportunity to say, "Hey, let's get you some help.
Yeah.
Take a couple weeks off, a month off. We'll come back and reassess." I believe that you have big purpose, and you're going to be good at what you do. But right now, you got to get this head clear.
Yes.
And
Give him
that's
chances.
giving chances, because I was given so many chances. One of those new songs that are out, like, you can't count them.
No, you can't.
God's blessings, you can't count them, and they started before we even recognized
Yes.
them, right? And it's being able to set apart from everything else, and that's really where I'm at today. Is everything is contingent on my spiritual condition.
Yes.
And if I'm not spiritually fit, yeah. And it's easy, but it comes back to that thinking, and that's really what I work on. Is before my eyes even open up in the morning, I am already saying thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for letting me wake up. Thank you for the beautiful wife that I get to wake up next to. Thank you for our home. Thank you for the job that I get to go to today. And that's as I'm rolling out of bed to start my day off on the right foot.
Yes.
Because the squirrel cage that's up here,
Yeah.
that's already going with all of the negative stuff that wants me to start off on that negative path, that's the enemy.
Yes.
That's the enemy trying to squeeze in wherever he can to be able to get us back. And there's so much hope out there that I've seen people well worse off than me that have overcome.
Yes.
That have overcome the addiction, have overcome whatever struggle there is. And for me, what I found is that I have to surrender.
Yes.
I have to surrender. Surrender everything you know, I deny myself, I pick up my cross, and I follow him. And I, Jody Robert White, no longer live, but Christ lives in me. And that's a hard pill to swallow some days. It is.
You're still human.
Yes, but the benefits and the things that I get to do, the lives that I get to change, the smiles that I get to see, the places that I get to go, the life that I have today that is next to none. Even with with my wife, Melinda and I have been together now almost 10 years, going up on 8 years being married, and I was so focused on God. He told me not to lift my head until I saw her, and he told me that she was the one.
Yes.
And so now you have this power duo.
Yeah, I know.
Right, that comes together, but there are all of these gifts, and it's the little voices that we get. And then again, like, I can't elaborate enough on the thinking and how to transform my thinking in a positive manner. And when we hear those little things, our gut usually tells us. Like, I remember one day, I was on Main Street. I was still working for RJC, Restorative Justice Center, and I was on the corner of Lake and Main. I was headed back to my office, and there was a piece of garbage that was on the ground, and I just kept on walking. And God told me to turn around and go pick it up. Yeah. And I said, I don't have time. I don't have time. Do you know that I walked all the way back to my office by City Hall, went to open a door, and it was so loud that I literally had to turn around and walk all the way back to the corner. And when I reached down to pick up that piece of paper that was still there, when I stood up, there was somebody in there somebody standing in front of me that I had to talk to.
Okay. Okay.
So that's how I perceive my life today.
Purpose.
And purpose and boldness, like to be able to be bold and not hold anything back. I mean, my recovery's on my sleeves, and I don't hold back. And I am an alcoholic, and I was, however you wanna say it, but the tendency is still there if I don't stay in that fit spiritual condition.
Yes.
Right? There's things that I need to do because I'm only an arm's way away from, drink. And that's where when the struggle becomes real. Right. Of I don't have to pick up a drink or a drug to have a bad day. Right? If I'm not in a good headspace, a good mindset, if I'm not spiritually fit, I can still, have that behavior, and those are some of the things that come up periodically through the years, and still come up, as recent, because like you said just a little while ago, we're human.
Yeah, you are human.
And so there's blind sides, right? And so I get blindsided. Wow, I didn't really think about it that way. And again, like, God does for us what we can't do for ourselves. I really can't put that in enough. And I'm speaking for myself. I'm not speaking for other people. My experience is exactly what I shared here today, is that I've had this I have this redemption story that I surrendered, and I no longer have to live my old ways. Yes. And the willingness to share that, and it's not a pride and ego thing. Like, that's been deflated. Now, that it doesn't come up every once in a while, but then you check yourself. And the most important pieces for me is finding those accountability people.
Yes.
And, as a troubled person, an addict, played the game and, the game, but you can draw people out and you can know if somebody's sincere
Yes.
or not, right? And so that's really what I stand for today is that peer to peer. Like, yes, I've been there. Yes, I've had that relationship. Yes, I've had that addiction. Yes, I did that too. And the eye opener is whatever you're thinking that you've done, I can assure you almost to 100% somebody's already done that.
Yes.
So
Been there, done that.
there's really there's no secrets to life about how you're going to go forward.
Yes.
I mean, it's really, some days are bad days, but it's a test.
Is it that?
It's really just how are you going to respond to this today, And sometimes it's really, really small, and other times it's big. But then that's where you got to build your faith,
Yes.
and that's where you got to build your trust, and know that whatever you're going through, he's gonna walk through it,
Yes.
with you, and that's been my experience. Like, it's not something that I'm here to make up or it's really, it's been my experience. And I mean, when I first came back to society, like, I even had to force a smile for a little while,
Yeah.
right? Because there's still that hardcore,
Yeah.
but you fake it till you make it, and then
Yeah.
you smile,
Yeah.
and everybody around you smiles,
Yeah.
and it's contagious,
Yeah.
and it's just having that effect on people, and allowing God into your heart.
Yes.
Yes. I'm very grateful for my heart to be softened.
Yes.
I guess I'm on TV, so it's out there.
Yeah,
I'm a big teddy bear today.
Yeah, but the my philosophy, there's no judgment, no condemnation, because you don't know the story.
Yeah.
There is a story as to why.
Yeah.
And when you get to the why, you really realize the redemption, given the chances, the redemption
Yeah.
to cure the whys.
Yeah.
So I believe that you are an absolute asset to this society.
Thank you.
And I believe that you can help, or I changed the word from help to assist us as a community as we look at people who are in the drug community at this point. How can we create our atmosphere that they could also feel as though they belong?
Yeah.
Yes, there's a struggle, but we are here with a soft heart and open arms. These are the services. If you fail, okay, let's try another way.
Right.
You fail, let's try another way, because this cookie cutter wouldn't work for everyone.
Yeah, there's not a recovery. I mean, not everybody's going to have my path, and I'm okay
Exactly.
with that, and I'm not judgmental against
Right.
that. I guess what I would say is we're getting close to closing out is as the community as a whole, and it doesn't necessarily mean for the drug addiction or whatever the case may be. Because there's a lot of different moving parts, and there's a lot of
Yes.
different scenarios, right? When the pandemic came in, that caused a lot of chaos. And when you're left to your own devices, and there's things out there that you can grasp a hold of, you may have never drank before, you may have never done drugs before, but when you lost your job because there's no work and you can't pay your bills, and next thing you know, you're homeless. And so there's that
Vicious
mindset
cycle.
of like, all right, what am I going to do? And the first thing I'm trying to figure out is where am I going to sleep tonight?
Where you gonna
how
get
am I
that
going to
warm meal
survive,
from?
and so on. So there's a lot of moving parts to put into consideration. And for the community to step forward is that there's not just, it takes an army.
Yes.
It's not
A
just
village.
a village, right? And it's not just a few people that are going to be able to carry on and help. I do what I can. Obviously, Melinda does what she can. But I'm going to put a challenge out there. There's people out in our community that can make a difference. And I think the biggest part of that is meeting people where they're at.
Exactly.
Right? Going down to Martha's and Martha's Kitchen and having a cup of coffee or
Yes.
a hot meal and sharing that experience. I believe, and I've said this to a few people in community, I believe that, a lot of individuals that are struggling in our community and the communities around us. St. Albans isn't the only
Yeah,
place that's struggling, but there's learned behavior, and that's part of the psychology around it. Is when it's learned behavior, when you've seen certain things through your life growing up, and you don't know that it's different
Yes.
until there's consequences with it, then that's learned behavior. That person deserves a second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth,
Yes,
seventh
yes.
chance to be able to turn the life around, because that's not okay, but it's not your fault. It's
Right.
not your fault that's what you learned. And so those are some of the other things that I have learned, as I continue on in my recovery and in life in general, is that seeing the bigger picture.
Yes.
What's the underlying piece in this? And that's why I bring the community to come in and meet people where they're at, because they may have something that person is looking
little
for,
piece,
but it
yeah.
has to come from them, right? But they don't know that because they're too wrapped up in all the other stuff
bureaucracy,
that's going.
right.
Yeah.
And so the way I see that, there's a social aspect that is the different organizations are doing their part, but there's this hole in the middle where you need volunteers, mentors that will help with the social aspect. Because if a person comes up in an environment where cussing is norm, you cannot expect this person to speak to you without the cuss word. If this person comes up in an environment where alcohol is a drink of the day, you can't expect this person just to enjoy. So get to the core, this middle. And so I like all the organizations that are out here, but there's this hole in the middle. And it takes us to seeing it and letting someone, like someone said to me, my mom told me I would never be anything good.
That sticks.
For a lifetime. And I would see this person, I would be like, you're doing good today. You're the only person that would tell me that. Everybody tell me that I'm scum. And I'm like, no, you're not. You are doing good today. You woke up, you got dressed, and you trying to get pieces together.
Yeah.
You are doing good. And every time, and she said to me, she said, I look forward to seeing you because I know that I'll get a good word.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a simple gesture of opening the door for somebody, getting in the garage, groceries
nice
out to the
day.
car, have a nice day, a smile, paying it forward, buying
You're doing good,
coffee,
right? You're
whatever,
doing good.
whatever. And those are the things that we can put into practice, right? Because that's what I did was, how do I do this? Well, just start out by opening the door for somebody.
Yes.
Buying somebody's groceries or
Yes.
buying them a coffee or
Yeah.
whatever, doing something nice without looking for anything in return.
No judgment, no condemnation, just a nice
Why are
day.
you doing this? Because I want to.
Yes, act of kindness.
Don't rob me of my blessings. Just
Yes, just allow me to bless.
pay it forward,
Yes,
and that's. I think if we have more of that,
Yes.
then
Yes.
then that spreads out. Those are the seeds that are soaking. But this
Yes.
generation that we're in right now, it hurts my heart.
Yes, but again, we have to start in here and then you move it out.
Yeah.
In here and then you move it out. And each one meet one, and we could all coexist to exist in this in we could all coexist to exist in this community if we all be mindful of each other, their struggles, past, present, and maybe future, but also look at them as one whole person, one human being that is striving to live a life of love, acceptance, and that, as they would say, no, I got you. You good. It's okay. You're going to be all right. And with that, I would like to thank Jody for coming today and to speaking to us candidly and from the heart. And when you listen to this message, please share it to someone that is struggling, and they will be able to gain some knowledge as to how, no matter how many times you were forgiven, if you mess up, there's still another I forgive you that's going to come from someone that believes in you, that you can make that change, and you also can be a productive society because you have a redemption story to share. Thank you, and this is your host, Winnie Wilkinson from Hey Neighbor Hey. I guess they didn't. Yeah, so well.
There's still a couple of
I
minutes.
know, right? So just do your closing. You could close